That's all. That's the only Spanish that you'll hear from me.
Okay.
Hola, mi nombre es Donald Neiffer. I am the Chief Veterinarian at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C.
Hi, I'm Erin Kendrick. I'm the clinical nutritionist for the Smithsonian National Zoological Park.
This is your first time here?
This is my second time in Peru, my second time at Inca.
What was the last time you were here? You also work with bears?
Yeah, so this is the second year of our joint Andean bear conservation program between United States colleagues and our friends and colleagues here in Peru.
What have been the expectations for the workshop and what are the results?
So people will tell us the results, I guess, down the road, but the expectations are still being met. We are still having a third day of our conference. It's been great. We've had some downtime, excellent weather for a bear anesthesia event that we performed. We've had training laboratories to help teach people about operant conditioning and its use in captive animals. We'll be having a darting exercise tonight where the participants will learn how to put together a dart for injecting an animal with anesthetic or vaccinations. Erin has provided a lot of background information and some best practices on nutrition. I miss anything?
Oh, you're back at it.
A little bit of information about husbandry in terms of exhibit design, how to maximize the space you have available, and to ideally be able to produce healthy, viable cubs for both as ambassador animals in captivity, but also as part of a reintroduction program.
What can you tell us, Erin, about bear diet?
Well, they're varied. So just about every bear in captivity may have a different diet. But in general, these guys are omnivores, which means they can eat plant matter and animal matter. It's just a matter of getting that balance right. And so we know that the Andean bear is mostly a vegetarian, eating lots of bromeliads and the heliconias, a lot of those naturally existing plants and some of those fruits, and very little of the animal matter. And so what we're really trying to work on is getting these diets balanced to match as much as possible what those natural nutrients would be in that diet with the ingredients we have available to the captive bears. And also dealing a little bit with weight management. You know, sometimes we are dealing with skinny bears coming in from the wild that need to be rehabilitated, or bears that have been in captivity for quite some time and may need to lose a little bit of weight for their own management.
What workout would you recommend to Andean bears?
An Andean bear. Well, we know that they're always up in the trees trying to get their food, and so, you know, lots of climbing, walking around. A lot of bears are just constantly foraging. They have to go long distances to find enough food to maintain their condition. So just generally walking around, certainly climbing. You know, in a captive setting, we really try and provide a lot of opportunity for those animals to use their natural abilities to procure their own food and exhibit some natural behaviors. And so anything that we can do in the exhibits to kind of emulate that would be helpful in expending that extra energy.
What are the conditions for husbandry and breeding? What would be ideal to
be ideal? Well, ideal conditions would be able to have space and flexibility so that you can introduce the bears during the breeding season and also separate the bears. There are many issues with breeding bears if they're together all the time. And in addition, if the female does become pregnant, the cubs may be at risk of illness or injury because the male may not tolerate the cubs at the time. Then, along with having the facilities, appropriate nutrition. If you have an overweight bear, if you have a bear that has doesn't get much exercise, that animal may not be as fit at reproduction. So really nutrition, appropriate husbandry, appropriate psychological health as well as physiological health. After that, put the bears together. We're in their home range, so their timing should be right. This is actually the best place to breed Andean bears.
What are your thoughts about Inca-Terra's project?
Well, for me personally, I love these types of projects. It's really a holistic approach to saving a species in its environment, taking what we know from captivity and through semi-captivity, through free-ranging populations, and I find that people all along the way can provide information that can move in two directions. I love the fact that Inca-Terra, they're a company, a business, they're an ecotourism facility, but they want to give back, They've engaged the local community. They value the ecosystem. They want the ecosystem to survive. They value the people and the heritage they have. The fact that they are willing to really put huge resources, most of the resources, into this program is great. So I've had a great time 2 years in a row now. I really respect what they're trying to do here, and I think they are a great model for other ecotourism companies.
Same question?
Yes.
Well, this is my first time here, so I'm kind of trying to really take all this in. I kind of echo a lot with what Don just said, in that they're able to really provide a lot of those resources they're getting in from the ecotourism business and put it back into not just the community, but to the system itself, and really try and protect this environment. In terms of what I'm gaining out of it, I'm hoping that with some of the expertise that we're bringing from our own facility and our own experience, is going to be combined with what we can take home from the area here. You know, there's a lot about bear diets naturally that we don't know. We know that there are certain things that they do eat, but we don't know in what proportions. We don't know often what the nutrition composition of those things are. And so really maybe digging deeper into that with some of the people who are here locally and have access to those items, getting them analyzed and really learning what it is those bears are consuming, so that when we are faced with having them in captivity, whether it is for a zoological setting or for rehabilitation, we understand how to formulate those diets to the best that we can for what they need, either long-term in captivity or to reintroduce them back into the wild. So really a combination of those two sides.
What would be the similarities and differences between Andean bears at the Smithsonian and the Andean bears at the
Right now they're a little colder. 'Cause we're still in our winter in the U.S.
Do they adapt to?
They do. Which, yeah. So interesting. I look at the Andean bear much like our North American black bear. They're omnivores. They inhabit a wide range of ecosystems, from cloud forests to deserts. In the U.S., they're in everything from temperate woodlands to the swamps of Florida to the deserts of the Southwest. They're very similar. So yes, they do adapt quite well. Their breeding cycle, it shifts a little bit, partly because of day length and also because of latitude. And Erin can speak more about the diet. We try to, with all of our animals at the Smithsonian and at other institutions, we try to replicate their natural diet. It's impossible to do it, and it's a constant learning thing, but many of the foods we give them, at least at the component form, the proteins and the fats, are very similar to what they would receive in the wild.
Yeah. The other thing that we do struggle with is that, yes, ultimately the diet that we are trying to come up with is going to meet their needs. But a lot of our domesticated food items that we have available to us, and therefore we have available to feed to the animals, are quite different nutritionally from what they would have in the wild. And so it goes back to analyzing what they're eating in the wild and bringing that information back and comparing that to the food items that we have available to us and seeing what the best match is. So maybe it means that we think that they eat fruits in the wild, so we feed them fruit in captivity. But actually, when you look at the nutrient composition of our domesticated fruits, things like apples, bananas, mangoes, papayas, they're very sugary, pretty low in protein, very low in fiber, whereas a lot of these naturally existing fruits are quite the opposite. So when you look at them side by side, we've actually found you're more likely to do better with maybe vegetables as a substitute for those wild fruits, rather than the nice juicy sweet fruits that we would prefer to eat.
What are the next steps for Smithsonian regarding Andean bears?
Well, it's a good question. We hope expansion and progress. The amount of change that's occurred just after our first visit is significant. The previous visit, it was really limited to Machu Picchu Preserve and Inca Terra, but we have individuals now throughout Peru. We also have some visitors from other countries, Bolivia, I believe, at least one other country, I believe. So the hope was that this would expand to involve all range countries. I know Inca Terra has had some interest in developing kind of a field training station, which some of the land where we have the semi-freedom area, where we have the bears in the very large enclosures, would lend itself nicely to that. I think similar to last year, we'll go back and evaluate how things went, what worked, what didn't work. we'll wait for feedback from the participants. We have 20 or 25 people.
Quite a few, yes.
So that's going to be real critical to what we do. And then it's the same old, looking for funding, looking for support, finding time out of our regular jobs. We both love doing this, but
Yes.
we take care of a collection most of the time back in the States. But our hope is this expands, and it is at least for the next few years, it's an annual event. Would be great. My hope.
Yeah. So for me, really starting to help the Inca Terra bears in not a reformulation, but an analysis of their current diet, see if there are any areas that we can make some changes and help them improve on that and what they're already doing. In addition to working with the people who are already working here, they've identified a lot of those foods that I've mentioned that are out in the wild, and really working hard maybe to get some of those analyzed and really get some of that information that we're missing in terms of our formulation and just the information in general about what these bears eat and what they require. And really building that database of information is something that I'd really like to focus on going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.